Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Today I'm going to show you a little bit of core work and foam rolling today.
We're giving everybody the opportunity to speak their voice.
I had a weight workout this morning and then I ran on the treadmill for about 25 minutes. And I have this thing called a patella tracking issue where the kneecap on my left leg kind of gravitates off my knee, like it moves away from my knee. So I get this weird clicking going on. So I really need to build my quads. I also like to have core strength because I do get a little fatigue in my low back when I'm running. So when I'm finished running, I like to come onto the mat and give myself a little love before I start to seize up. So the first thing I do after I run, or I try to do after I run, is try to stretch and work with my foam roller. So we're gonna start in seated today. You can come to seated in a comfortable position. For me, comfortable is soles of the feet together. So I really enjoy this particular pose, especially for my low back. It may not work for you. So find a comfortable position that works for you. If knees or feet together makes your knees kind of feel a little bit unsupported or needs a little bit more love, then you can always bring your blocks underneath your knees. So for my practice today, I have a rolled blanket, I have a big blanket, I have a bolster, I've always got my meditation cushion, and 2 blocks. If you don't have any of these things, blankets, towels will work well, a beach towel. If you do not have blocks, water bottles, books, trying to think of anything else that you could use, anything that will support you at all. A small bench, anything like that. So I usually have like a little tiny step stool that works really well when you don't have blocks. If you have a big bolster and you want to slide the bolster underneath your knees to support you, that's also a great alternative. So bringing the soles of the feet together, pressing down through your bottom, and if you are okay to have no support underneath your knees, you might want to elongate the stretch by bringing the knees, bring the elbows to the knees and pressing apart slightly. So that can give you a little bit of love. So I'm gonna go ahead and set a timer here because I try to do a stretch for about 10 minutes, but honestly, I have no concept of what 10 minutes is. As long as it's feeling good in my body, this can go on for hours and hours, and I just wanna be respectful of your time. So pushing down into the knees, and then what I do is I push back up into the elbows with that same energy into the knees. Then rooting through my sitting bones, lengthen your collarbones forward and come into the breath. And then I try to just kind of soften into the pose, noticing where I'm feeling sensation. And for me, in this particular pose, I'm feeling sensation across the low back and the inner thighs. You may be feeling it somewhere entirely different, and that's okay too. So I just want you to give yourself permission to experience the posture however it shows up for you. Now, if you've got sharp shooting pain here, then you need to back off. That's language that our body is telling us that we need to slow down or back off. So take a couple minutes to just be in your breath here and know that you can exit out of any of these poses at any time, that it is not a failure or you're not doing yoga. You are listening to your body and giving your body the break it needs. So really always honor that. On the inhale, let's lift the head and the heart and come up. And now I'm gonna tuck that right leg underneath the left, keeping that left knee up in front. Let's press down into that left foot, taking the right hand to the outer edge of the right knee and slowly twisting toward, left knee, pardon me, slowly twisting toward the left. And what I like to do is pull my belly skin toward my knee or toward my thigh to get a little bit more love here, or a little bit more of a twist here, which to me is actually love. Beautiful. And then inhale, come back through center. Let's extend that left leg out long, bringing the right thigh to the inside of that left leg, twisting the shoulders, and exhaling, lengthening forward with the collarbone. So we're pushing down through the sit bones, pushing out through the mound of the big toe, rooting down through the sitting bones, and just softening into the pose. Inhaling deeply, exhaling completely. Keeping a little bit of softness in the knee if you like here. So try not to hyperextend. I really like to dig my heel into the mat or into the floor to keep my knee from hyperextending because I do have mobile joints. Inhale, come up, and now let's take that right hand, place it behind the right hip. We're gonna roll over onto the right knee and extend the left arm up and over, a little side bend here. And release back down. Now I'm gonna go to the other side. I'm gonna tuck that left leg underneath the right, planting that right foot. I'm gonna pull that right heel closer to the body, and I'm gonna twist to the right. So I'm gonna lift my belly skin, pull it into the twist, and then take my fingertips behind me and twist all the way around toward the right shoulder. And sometimes I like to just press my left knee away and see what kind of sensations I get. I keep trying to experiment with sensation, right? Just kind of figure out what feels good, figure out what works for me. Beautiful. And on the inhalation, let's unravel and come forward. And then extend that right leg out nice and long. I'm gonna square the shoulders to that right leg. If you're up on a bolster or you feel like your knee's kind of floating in space and it feels a little uncomfortable, then slide a blanket or a block underneath that knee. Now I'm gonna dig my right heel into the mat, so there's a little bit of a bend in my right knee, and then lengthen forward. Inhaling deeply and exhaling completely. So taking a nice deep breath in, pressing out through the mound of the big toe, allowing yourself the opportunity just to lengthen the collarbones forward, pushing down through your seat, and just kind of observing what you're feeling in your body. And again, let's remember that we're not pushing or forcing, right? Inhale, come all the way back up. We're gonna remove the block if you have it underneath your knee. If you're sitting up on a bolster or a meditation cushion, you can stay there, or a blanket. Take your legs out as wide as feels comfortable. What I like to do is do a little manual inner spiral of the thigh, moving the flesh back and away. I'm gonna flex the toes back toward the nose, and then, or back toward my body, I'm gonna slowly begin to walk forward. Now, pushing down through the backs of the legs, noticing what sensations come up there, making sure that the pelvis is tilted forward slightly. So you want to have like an interior tilt to your pelvis. If you're kind of rocking back here with your pelvis tipped up and you're rounding here, it might not be all that comfortable. You might want to sit up on a block, bolster, blanket to help you tip the pelvis forward. And then again, lengthening through the collarbones, go ahead and fold forward and just kind of notice sensation in the body again. You may be feeling it in a number of different ways. As long as it's not sharp shooting pain and that you're feeling this sensation of stretching, then you're doing the right thing. And always just honor that. Like, please don't force something that's not supposed to happen. As long as you're feeling sensation, you're in the stretch and you're in the moment. So really think about that, right? Really, in other words, like, make peace with that, right? Surrender to that. On the inhale, let's lift the head and the heart and come up. And now I'm gonna make my way toward the top edge of my mat. I've got a big blanket here that I'm gonna fold in case I wanna use it later. And I'm gonna show you my transition here. So we're in a wide-legged forward fold. We're gonna move into a deer pose, okay? So we're gonna bend that right knee and then bend that left knee, and I'm coming off the bolster into a deer pose. So it almost looks like a 90-90 sit, which my right knee is not quite at 90, but you're making the shape of almost a Z or an S with the legs. So you can adjust accordingly. You can prop with blankets. That's why I always like to have a folded blanket nearby. I'm gonna use my meditation cushion with my folded blanket on top. And from here in this S sit, I'm gonna sit forward until I feel first sensation. And I'm not gonna judge it or, not allow my mind to have a whole commentary on this. If you are not feeling anything here and you feel like you need a little bit more stretch, you have the option to lean into that right leg and stretch the left leg back behind you. Okay, so there's the option to go there. Or there's always the option to come onto the back. If you're not feeling anything and you want a little bit more stretch, you can come onto your back and cross the right ankle over the left knee, and I've placed my foot on top of my blanket, my bolster, for a little extra elevation, or you can bring that left knee into the chest. So just really decide where this is going to work for you, and then take that pose. So go ahead and come into it now whenever you're ready, and then fold forward into it, giving yourself the opportunity just to breathe, inhaling and exhaling. And again, I don't like to place any judgment on what my body is doing on any particular day. I just like to notice where my body is and what it's up to and adjust accordingly. Taking a few minutes to breathe here. So we'll be in this pose for about 1 more minute, inhaling deeply, exhaling completely, just kind of noticing what's going on. Giving your body a break. Breathing into that space. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, planting your hands, lifting your head and your heart, we'll roll over onto that right hip and slide the left leg around. Now, if you're on your back, change legs. So you had your right ankle crossed over your left knee. So go ahead and switch sides, if you will. All right, so now we're gonna switch to the other side. So I'm bringing my left knee out in front, right knee behind, and I'm gonna lean into that left hip and notice sensation here. And again, if you're not feeling sensation, you can try taking the pose bigger by taking that right leg further back behind you. You can come into pigeon pose if you like by rolling over onto that left hip and extending the right toes straight back behind you, or you can make your way onto your back. So just adjust accordingly, knowing that there's no exact perfect way to do anything, and whatever it is that you attempt here is completely acceptable. So of course, just come out of the pose if you need to. Change anything that you may need to change. Find your breath. Three more breaths here. Good. You can feel this a little bit. And then on the inhale, let's lift the head and the heart and come all the way up slowly and sliding our legs back together. If you are on your back, I would like you to roll to your side, make your way up to seated. If you are in pigeon pose, you can take whatever poses you want to take before you make your way to seated. So find your way to seated with your feet wide apart. And we're going to do something just called windshield wipering. So whenever you get here, you get here. Take whatever poses you need before you come to this pose. And let's rock our knees back and forth. Now this can be really intense if that knee comes really close to the floor. But if you don't want it to come quite so close to the floor, you can actually decide how much intensity that you want to have. So let's do 2 more here. Last one. Good. And now let's get into our foam rolling. Now, especially if you're a runner or a cycler or even a walker, foam rolling can be really good for breaking up inflammation, for reducing fluid retention, all kinds of great stuff. So I tend to, as I mentioned before, have an issue with my left knee, so my IT bands need a lot of love. So I bring my foam roller to the center of my mat, and then I'm going to come over onto my left side with my left hip on the foam roller. Okay, I'm going to plant my right leg on the floor, extend my left leg out. You may have seen me do this before, but what's going to be different this time is I'm going to find that really tight, sore spot for me, and I'm going to just embrace it. Like, it's not a sharp shooting pain, it's a soreness, and I've got my right foot planted, and I'm just going to rock slowly back and forth on that spot to see if I can get it to release. So what I've noticed with my patella tracking issue is it doesn't hurt when I work out. It doesn't hurt when I run or I cycle or do, any yoga. But where it does seem to begin to hurt or click is when I stop moving. So essentially, I think what is happening, and this is just my observation of my own body, is that things are tightening up. And that's what happens, right? When we're out there running, we're pounding on the pavement and we are shortening our muscles, okay? Walking, any kind of impact like that, we're shortening our muscles. And so as the muscles cool off, they kind of retract and get tight. So it's really important that if you can, right away after you run to stretch out or to do your foam roll. So I just tethered back and forth. Now I'm going to come down to my mid-thigh again, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to tether back and forth, just rocking back and forth. And I'm going to let you know that this feels very uncomfortable, but I know that this part of my leg is really tight and it's pulling on my kneecap. So I know that it's something that's going to help me release that. So things that, I call this like intentional movement. Things that don't feel joyful or fabulous in the moment become intentional movement, because I know when I set the intention to loosen this IT band and my quadricep here, that the intention will be to release any pain or clicking in my knee. So intentional movement for me is an investment in my future self. So it's an investment in my knee not hurting. And now I'll do a traditional just kind of rolling out. And again, I was really on that tender spot and I embraced it. It's like when you have somebody stretch out your IT bands for you. It's a very painful experience. And sometimes it makes me want to be violent with the person who's doing it just because it's so intense. But I'm here doing it to myself as a self-care initiative because I really want to be able to continue to run and to be good to my body. All right. So now that I basically can't stand it anymore, I'm going to move to that second side. So one thing about foam rolling is it always feels better when it's done, right? During the process of doing it, it doesn't always feel fabulous, but the end result is always something that I find is super rewarding for me. All right, so let's come on to the other side. I don't have the same issue on the other side, so I'm still looking for that tender spot, which is not as intense on this side. And then I kind of just pivot back and forth on that. So I'm just kind of rocking slowly forward, rocking slowly back. And again, if this is just like too much intensity for you, then come back to your traditional foam rolling of up and down the IT band or the side of that thigh. You can also plant that left leg. I also have like some soreness happening in my glutes. I did a glute workout at the gym today, glutes and legs, pretty much death by squats. And so everything's just starting to get tight now because it's been about an hour since I worked out. So it's probably preferable to do this like right after you work out. Don't give your body an opportunity to seize up. Work with it while it's still warm and pliable. Good. And now we'll rock back and forth in our traditional foam roll. And like I said, these are the kinds of things that always feel better after. This is that intentional movement, so our body helps repair itself for our next activity. Let's do one more across here. Do as much as feels comfortable to you. And then I'm going to get into my glutes, okay? So coming to seated on the other side of the foam roller, I'm going to bring my hands behind me. If being up on your wrist hurt, you certainly can come down onto your forearms. I like to turn my palms just out and behind me because I feel like I get a little bit of a shoulder opening here. You can also come up on blocks if this doesn't feel good in your hands. So you'll grab your blocks, give yourself an opportunity to change the angle of the wrist by wrapping your fingertips around them, having them behind you. They might create a little bit more height for you where you're not dumping all your weight into your palms. And then just rolling to the back of the legs, into the hamstrings. You can roll all the way down to the calves if that feels good. But I'm holding myself up here. Remember, if this isn't available to you, you can take your blocks to their medium setting and roll this way, okay? But find where this works for you, okay? Find how this applies to you. Maybe it creates a little bit of tension in the upper body. You can stretch that out after. Let's do two more. And last one. Beautiful. Let's plant our feet. Come on to our back. So you can remove your foam roller off to the side. And then bringing your knees into your chest. Let's float our arms out into T, taking our knees over to the right. Gaze up toward the ceiling. Relax the shoulders. And this is just a quick stretch out after a walk, a run, or a workout, whatever it is you like. What would be awesome after a run is a yin yoga practice, which is something that's really great for stretching out that connective tissue and for just getting back into your body in a way that can be restorative by holding the poses for long periods of time. Inhale back through center. Let's take a happy baby pose, holding on to the outer edges of the feet, pressing the knees back toward the floor. Oh. Flexing the inner edges of the feet up to the sky. Again, you can hang on at the ankles or at the back of the thighs, or even not at all. If you have a strap, you can lasso the strap around the edges of the feet. I don't think I have a strap with me, or I could show you that. And if you don't have a strap, you can use the tie from a robe. You can use a sweater, an old sweater that you don't mind stretching out, or an old sweatshirt or shirt. Placing your foot on the shirt and using the arms as your strap. And let's release. And now you can roll up to your favorite side, come back to seated, and just kind of notice what you're feeling here. Inhaling and exhaling and coming back to your breath. So hopefully you found that helpful and useful. Please feel free to share this video with anybody who might be struggling with tight hamstrings or tight hips after running, or just in general. A nice way to just do a gentle foam rolling, nothing too intense, as we ease into our practice and possibly ease into our week or day. Thank you so much for joining me here. If you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, comment below. Let me know what other videos I can make for you, because I do love to make these videos, and we do upload a new video every single week. All right, thank you everyone, and I'll talk to you next time.